Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star episode number 347 based on novel. So let's start. Luo Feng was filled with amazement. He thoroughly appreciated the intricate and delicate engraving picture of the miniature universe. Time passed, and the godly power consumed in 90 seconds was equal to that of the remote ocean body at the height of more than 55,000 miles. However, remote ocean body could withstand it easily. This? Luo Feng had made the shocking discovery that the engraving picture could be disintegrated, and small engraving pictures showed up after the disintegration. Each of the small engraving pictures was an engraving picture on the 64 beast god sculptures. After the disintegration, 92 small beast god engraving pictures showed up, and many of them were identical. However, they all came from the engraving pictures of the 64 beast god sculptures. The 92 beast god engraving pictures were like components, making up a single mechanism after being combined. There were countless threads connecting all the pictures, and the connections were natural and perfect, comprising a miniature universe. How could this be, wondered Luo Feng. 64 engraving pictures combined to form an engraving picture of a miniature universe? Luo Feng suddenly saw a new door open. If he didn't know those 64 beast god engraving pictures, the miniature universe engraving picture would be too intricate for him to understand. However, now that he was viewing it as beast god engraving pictures, they were much easier to understand. It was just a combination of 64 engraving pictures. Incredible, said Luo Feng. He was mesmerized. He had not realized, until now, that there was another way to understand the incredible inherited technique. Inside the original universe flew an ordinary spaceship. This disciple of mine has a remote ocean body that has reached the perfect life gene level even before he became undying, sitting mountain guest whispered in the spaceship. He must have been bestowed a supreme inherited technique. As for supreme inherited techniques, they hold the top spot among all the techniques in the universe, and all of them are perfect. As for those 64 engraving pictures, they are the perfect embodiment of 8 inborn beast gods. The 8 beast gods stand for 8 merge laws. Universe operation laws can be classified into gold, wood, water, fire, ground, light, wind, lightning, time, and space. However, they can also be classified into 8 merge laws. Sitting mountain guest smiled. He had already reached the pinnacle level possible in the universe, and he could see everything clearly. All of the highest level techniques can be disintegrated into 64 engraving pictures. As for those that are inferior, they can't even rival one beast god engraving picture. They do not qualify. Luo Feng is examining those 64 beast god sculptures, and he knows those 64 engraving pictures. Once he performs his supreme inherited technique, he'll realize the connection between the supreme inherited techniques and the 64 engraving pictures. He'll start with the engraving pictures and create techniques using those pictures. He doesn't even need to understand those engraving pictures, sitting mountain guest thought. All he needs to do is remember those engraving pictures and their structures. And with the engraving picture he got from his own supreme inherited technique, he can totally try that. Once he succeeds, it will be possible for him to create a simplified technique of a supreme inherited technique. And if he can actually succeed, it means he's a high achiever in engraving pictures. Using those 64 engraving pictures as elements, there were great beings who did that before the Grand Nirvana. If Luo Feng can also accomplish something in that field, and together with his ordinary law training, he'll make many more improvements. Plus, he is able to better see the origin of the universe. Sitting mountain guest was making a huge bet. No one had succeeded on the path of engraving pictures since the original universe came into being. The main reason for this was that only a few were qualified to see the 64 engraving pictures. Even those who saw them couldn't understand them. However, before the Grand Nirvana, some great beings had succeeded, which meant that the method was possible. Different methods supported each other, but they all led to the same end, the origin mystery of the universe. You've come so far after only 100,000 years, sitting mountain guest thought. And you survived the life or death inheritance. Now, I'll give you 1 billion years. Let's see whether you can make some accomplishments on engraving pictures. Engraving pictures training had always been a secret. After all, the time of the Grand Nirvana was immeasurable, and even before the Grand Nirvana, only a few practiced engraving pictures. Obsessed? Luo Feng was completely obsessed. He hadn't expected those 64 engraving pictures to form such an incredible technique. He had always thought that I am the universe was so powerful and intricate that he couldn't possibly understand it. However, he could now. It was the combination of those 64 engraving pictures, and some of them overlapped with each other, leading to 92 engraving pictures. Does that mean the combination of those 64 engraving pictures result in significant power? Luo Feng immediately started to study it. At the peak of one of the mountains in the Beast God sector, Ancestor appeared and looked down. Weird? Why does he keep drawing engraving pictures? Ancestor watched from a distance and saw one engraving picture after another forming around Luo Feng, who sat in front of a gold Beast God sculpture with his legs crossed. He's been drawing the engraving pictures for 10,000 years, said Ancestor, thoroughly confused. Luo Feng found the combination of the engraving pictures to be unpredictable and mysterious after studying all of them. If he made a mistake, the power would tumble. However, Luo Feng was randomly combining different engraving pictures based on the engraving picture of I Am the Universe, and he had created dozens of techniques. Most, however, were weak, and only one of them could rival an undying technique. It came close to the third move of Star Map. This thrilled Luo Feng. He now understood that the engraving pictures were a new path. And it might be his only chance to defeat Ancestor Body within a period of 100,000 eras. Luo Feng started with a random drawing. There were billions of ways for law threads to be combined for I Am the Universe. He started by randomly copying and simulating without rules, but after 10,000 years of trying, he had successfully created some weak techniques. He also understood the differences between different combinations. Based on his extensive practice, he extrapolated the possibilities, and from the possibilities, he extrapolated his theories. In the first 100,000 years, Luo Feng worked by trial and error. He only created two techniques that could rival the third move of Star Map. He did, however, discover some patterns after all those trials. Luo Feng decided to concentrate on the 8 engraving pictures of the Gold Beast God while temporarily giving up the other 56 engraving pictures. Based on his 100,000 years of trial and error, Luo Feng was most accurate when randomly combing the 8 engraving pictures of the Gold Beast God. After a million years, Luo Feng started to understand the mysteries of the engraving pictures of the Gold Beast God. After 10 million years, he completely understood the mysteries and power of the combinations of those engraving pictures. Of course, it was only the tip of the iceberg compared to the engraving picture of I Am the Universe. But finally, Luo Feng completely comprehended it. During those 10 million years, Luo Feng accidentally created an ultimate technique for Universe Knights. Although he didn't understand the theories behind it, he remembered the way to perform it, just as he did with his inherited techniques. He memorized all the law threads and was able to perform it instantly, which was theoretically impossible. Law threads required users to understand the fundamentals of them in order to be performed, unless they were sculpted in the mind, like inherited techniques. However, Luo Feng didn't need to perform all the law threads. All he needed to do was perform several engraving pictures and combine them. The implications were profound. Luo Feng found the engraving pictures to be mysterious. It might be a unique and unusual way, but it was a highway to the top. Did Master Sitting Mountain Guest know this before, he wondered. Is that why he led me into the Beast God sector? Why haven't I heard of anyone among us humans who has practiced it? Why have I never heard of this practice method? Luo Feng was sometimes baffled by these many questions. For what it's worth, it's an incredible practicing method. Engraving pictures were like components. If the universe was a skyscraper, the components were the individual resources combined to create the whole. And there were many ways to build a skyscraper. So far, Luo Feng had found 900 million ways to combine the engraving pictures, and he could perfectly manipulate more than 100,000 of them. It was a path that was completely new to him, so he could only explore it all by himself. The more he studied it, the more combinations he knew and manipulated. Luo Feng forgot about the passage of time. He was immersed in the engraving pictures of the Gold Beast God. Time flew by. 10 million years, followed by another 10 million years. Luo Feng frequently went to watch the Beast God pictures of the Gold Beast God and studied them. At the peak of the tallest mountain in the Beast God sector, Ancestor looked down, frowned. Luo Feng had been in the Beast God sector for 180 million years, and Ancestor could tell from the way Luo Feng trained that he was following the path of engraving pictures, a path that led to the top. I might lose this time, thought Ancestor. Sitting Mountain Guest is indeed impressive, he said. He was aware of this way to practice, and he was certain that his disciple would succeed on that path. Ancestor also speculated that the disadvantage of that path was that it didn't have a strong foundation. However, if one was lucky enough to have inspirations, he could create terrifically powerful techniques. Ancestor's face became grave. No way. Ancestor was shocked as he looked down at a faraway spot. How is it possible that he could comprehend the heart of the beast? Weeds grew all over the plain. There was a towering sculpture of a gigantic lizard positioned in a slight squat as though poised for takeoff. And at the back of the gold beast god sculpture, Luo Feng lay on a bed of scales, eyes squinting. He was looking in midair, where countless complicated gold threads of engravings flowed continuously. His hundreds of millions of years of painstaking cultivation were no different from one another. In fact, Luo Feng had fallen into a unique state. He'd spent hundreds of millions of years studying the 8 pictures of engravings of the gold beast god, where every picture of engravings represented a different aspect of the gold beast god. 8 pictures of engravings? Luo Feng felt as though he was looking at a different face of the gold beast god every day, and day after day, month after month, year after year. The years went by. Luo Feng went on studying these 8 pictures of engravings, and for a good many years, he felt as though he had the company of gold beast god every waking and sleeping moment of his life. Currently, Luo Feng had lost himself to the 180 million years spent on studying these pictures of engravings. He forgot who he was. Now, he felt as though he actually was a beast god. Joy, happiness, anger, rage, insanity. He was roaming the universe. He was fighting his enemies in bloody battles stretching to endless voids. The fighting extended to other galaxies, until finally, he unwillingly breathed his last. Luo Feng lay unmoving, his eyes gradually closing. Only the gold beast god was real. All else was fabricated. His sleep went on for a whole millennium. During this millennium, even Luo Feng's original earthling body and his remote ocean body went into a deep slumber. No matter who tried, no one at all was able to contact Luo Feng. Over the course of 1,000 years, Luo Feng forgot his human memories, he forgot everything. In his deep slumber, he thought of himself as a beast god. A millennium went by peacefully. Then Luo Feng opened his eyes. "Is this the so-called transformation of things?" asked Luo Feng. "Was it my illusion or was it reality?" The moment he opened his eyes, he was in a trance, stupefied and unable to differentiate whether he was Luo Feng or a beast god. But quickly, he sobered up. Hundreds of millions of years' worth of human memories came flooding back and overrode the memories that he had collected while he was incarnated as the beast god. A beast god? What a magical feeling. Luo Feng lay on the back of the gold beast god sculpture, reminiscing about the feeling of being a beast god, which was still so vivid to him. He felt as though he could go back into that state easily. A beast god was an entirely different existence from that of humans. It was in a state that was detached, free, and true to its own nature. At the apex of the mountain, Ancestor watched the entire episode, shaking his head amidst sighs. He found it all so ironic. "The final bottleneck of the beast god path," he said. "Heart of beast god. The most difficult stage to comprehend and the most difficult to find, yet he has mastered it." The beast god path, according to the ancestral god school, was divided into a total of 7 major inheritances. Upon figuring out the entire beast god path, one would have attained the universe master level and become a pinnacle existence in the universe. Yet it was not that simple for one who wanted to become a universe master. Just as it was with the golden horned beast's lineage, after countless eras, they only had a total of 2 universe masters. Similarly, the flaming star beast's lineage had only 1 universe master. All of these clearly reiterated the fact that becoming a universe master was difficult to the point of nearly being impossible. There were many levels to accomplish. One of the beast god path's most difficult levels to figure out, because of its ethereal nature, was understanding the heart of beast god. Upon achieving this level, one could truly become an incarnation of the beast god. This had left many universe overlords wondering, like 11 Luo Duo and the many universe overlords, if they could only be incarnations of pseudo-beast gods because they were unable to understand the heart of beast god. Without a heart of beast god, there was no way one could truly become an incarnation of a beast god. For Luo Feng, this was an unintentional reward, as he spent such a long time wholeheartedly studying the 8 pictures of secret engravings. Tens of millions of years of dedicated work had led him into a deep slumber where he forgot everything. During his slumber, he dreamed about leading the life of a beast god for a long time. This Luo Feng made a resounding name of himself in less than 100,000 years, said Ancestor. "In my beast god sector, he has cultivated himself for around 180 million years. He has dedicated himself wholly to studying the secret engravings of golden space. Without any guidance, solely based on his own experience, he has attained the highest level. At the tip of his fingers, he could create techniques at the universe night level. Obviously, he will have become extremely familiar with the gold beast god's 8 pictures of secret engravings. And these 8 pictures are the full representation of gold beast god. Moreover, thought ancestor. Golden horned beasts are descendants of the gold beast god. They can easily understand the heart of beast god. For two to merge as one, accomplishing this is expected. Ancestor quickly understood why it was the process of accumulating richly and breaking forth vastly. Luo Feng had waited patiently, so when he had everything he needed to know in place, he would achieve success. After all, Luo Feng did spend 180 million years studying these pictures of secret engravings. It only took him thousands of years to attain the pinnacle emperor level, tens of thousands of years to develop his talent of creating 3 forms of ultimate technique. If he continued to study the laws, given 180 million years, Luo Feng would have cultivated himself to the level of a senior universe knight. All just to defeat ancestor. So, Luo Feng had not spent an inkling of effort on law comprehension. He gave his all to studying the pictures of secret engravings. Hence, he attained his achievements in this chosen studies, which far surpassed his achievements in law comprehension. After all, law comprehension required many tens of thousands of years to cultivate. Just studying the pictures of secret engravings, he spent 180 million years. That was simply incomparable. This is. Ancestor, who had calmed himself previously, suddenly revealed a sharp change in expression. He was unable to believe what he saw as he looked down at the beast god sculpture on the vast plain. Luo Feng was lying down on the sculpture. Even when he had previously comprehended the heart of the beast god, he had not shown such arrogance and rudeness. On the back of the beast god sculpture. After Luo Feng woke from a millennium of deep slumber, he started to study the 8 pictures of engravings of the gold beast god all over again. With the picture of secret engravings of his miniature universe as the final template, he tried to create a technique of his own. He could still feel the aftermath of his 1,000 years of slumber, during which the heart of beast god possessed an indistinct influence over him. Countless golden threads floated mid-air. It should be like this, he said. Yes. Like this. It must be by pure luck or coincidence, as Luo Feng himself was unclear of the underlying theories he used when he speedily combined all 8 pictures of secret engravings. Other than the majority of the law threads being combined based on his strong foundation, there were a few law threads that were combined purely based on his unique instincts, where he was free of inhibitions and followed his heart's desire without a second thought. It was as though the gold beast god was wandering about the universe, following its heart, killing when it wanted to kill, eating when it wanted to eat, sleeping when it wanted to sleep. When it came to the method of combining the law threads he was still unsure of, he combined them with such an attitude, following his heart. The most important thing was to feel pleased and fulfilled in the moment. Suddenly, a golden ray appeared. The golden ray sliced through heaven and earth in the blink of an eye. The frozen space was forcefully pried apart to reveal a ripple gully. Even the ground, under the resonating waves of the light ray, was cut apart to give way to a deep valley tens of millions of miles long. In an instant, the whole surface underwent a fundamental change. Then normality returned. I am left with such little godly power, said Luo Feng. He was dumbfounded as he sat on the back of the gold beast god sculpture. He gazed at the end of the vast land, at the deep valley, until everything returned to normal. What level of technique was that? Luo Feng could not believe he was so powerful. A few thousand years on law comprehension was enough for him to attain pinnacle undying level. If these 180 million years were spent devoted completely to studying law comprehension, for him to master the 6th, or even to the 7th stage of the beast god path was certainly achievable. Yet he had spent this long period of time studying only the pictures of secret engravings. He was certainly successful, and now he could easily create techniques at the universe night level, or, at times, he might even be able to create ultimate techniques at the universe overlord level. He was that powerful. Yet in terms of magnitude, his power was far less than that of the light ray. Could it be the ultimate technique of a universe master? Luo Feng still found it unbelievable. If he had not been mastering it, he would not have known. After all the studies on the pictures of secret engravings, he knew that while sometimes, with a stroke of luck, the pictures of secret engravings could allow one to miraculously create a set of technique, But the more powerful a technique was, the more it was impossible to depend solely on luck. Foundation was more important. 180 million years. Luo Feng was very accomplished in his studies of the pictures of secret engravings and could easily create techniques that were at the universe night level. But the most powerful technique that he had created so far was merely the Universe Overlord Ultimate technique, which was 2 levels higher than the ones he normally created. If he wanted to create a technique of a Universe Master level, he guessed he might need many hundreds of millions of years more. If the day came when he could readily create techniques of Universe Overlord level however he pleased, then who knew? He might get lucky and happen to create a technique of the Universe Master level. The foundation required would be higher. The most talented painter, with a stroke of inspiration, could paint a superior picture. But without a solid foundation, even with inspiration, one would not be able to produce a sensational piece of work. Luo Feng had now built a very strong foundation for himself. As an individual in the context of the universe, he could be considered a master, a founder capable of creating techniques. However, if he was expected to create techniques of Universe Master level, then to him, it was still something unbelievable. Is it a technique of the Universe Master level? Luo Feng jumped up from where he was and flew to a faraway spot on the mountain. On his shoulder was a golden horned beast. After flying for a short while, he arrived at the mountain cliff where there were 3 technique sculptures, all of which had been left behind by Space Beast Universe Masters. These 3 were all techniques of the Universe Master level. I shall carve the engravings of my creation with the use of my power. I should be able to understand it. Luo Feng looked at the stone surface. Godly power was gushing out, and all he could see at that very moment was a huge picture of a technique that was complicated beyond comprehension. Even many universe knights would have felt as though they were reading a heavenly book. Even if Luo Feng were to spend 180 million years, he would still be unable to comprehend this. This picture of technique was simply too deep to be fathomed. It exuded an endless wave of power that corresponded to the magnitude of power coming from the other 3 ultimate technique sculptures beside it. It was not the least bit weaker. It represented hundreds of millions of years of hard work, plus a heart of beast god. At any moment, Luo Feng spontaneously created such a technique. This was a technique he had created with the picture of secret engravings of his miniature universe as a template. It might be considered a simplified version of it. It was simply a near-perfect combination of the 8 Beast God pictures of the Gold Beast God that formed the attack-type technique, ultimate level technique of Universe Master. At the apex of the mountain, Ancestor watched. Tens of millions of years spent on experiencing, learning and creating, he muttered. And the heart of Beast God. If at any point in time, the 8 pictures of secret engravings of the Gold Beast God are almost perfectly combined, whether in a manner that makes sense or not, such a technique will emerge. At that moment, he transmitted a message to Sitting Mountain Guest who was in the primal universe. Sitting Mountain Guest, he said. Why are you still not on your way here? After only a short while, Sitting Mountain Guest showed up at the peak of the mountain. Did you call me here for drinks? Sitting Mountain Guest asked as he strolled toward Ancestor. Ancestor pointed in the distance, standing beside the cliff. Look at your disciple. Luo Feng? Sitting Mountain Guest looked in the direction Ancestor pointed and saw Luo Feng sitting beside a cliff. He appeared surprised and joyful after gazing for a while, then started to laugh. Old Beast God, no one in the universe can rival you on the path of 8 gods. However, this disciple of mine created a technique using the 8 engraving pictures of Gold Beast God. Do you admit your defeat? How can you say I'm going to lose before he even fights me? Ancestor said. Sitting Mountain Guest shook his head. Stop quibbling. Ancestor didn't continue about the upcoming fight. Instead, he exclaimed, your disciple is indeed impressive. It's fair to say that he had some luck when creating the technique, but no one in history could practice the engraving pictures so well in only 180 million years without any instructions. Besides, he has comprehended the heart of Beast God, and that's why it's easier for him to comprehend the 8 engraving pictures of Gold Beast God. It's easy for him to create Universe Knight level techniques, and if he's willing to devote his time and energy, he'll be able to create the Universe Overlord level ones as well. Even real Universe Overlords needed to spend an overwhelmingly long time to create Universe Overlord level ultimate techniques. To some extent, even those on the engraving path were better at creating techniques. Luo Feng was at least at the senior Universe Knight level when it came to his accomplishments among those who were on the engraving path. The heart of Beast God? Sitting Mountain Guest looked pleased. Then he guffawed. A pleasant surprise. What a pleasant surprise, indeed. He's a golden horned beast, which makes him a descendant of beast gods. Ancestor exclaimed. His bloodline inheritance is close to gold beast god. And with his research into those 8 engraving pictures, he can finally comprehend the heart of beast god. He is indeed lucky, but I can't say it's because of luck alone. Ha ha ha. Sitting Mountain Guest laughed heartily. Look at you. Ancestor shook his head. No wonder Sitting Mountain Guest was so proud. The accomplishments on engraving path could help law comprehension to a great extent. There wouldn't be many barriers until Luo Feng became a universe overlord. Especially with the heart of beast god. It would now be easier for him to proceed along the beast god path. Heart of beast god was the greatest challenge to turn from a universe overlord into a universe master, and that problem was now solved. Although it was still extremely difficult for him to become a universe master, he at least had a much higher chance. Sitting Mountain Guest glanced at Ancestor and rejoiced inside. Little do you know that this disciple of mine obtained inherited techniques before, and he can better study the engraving pictures with the instruction from the engraving picture of his supreme inherited technique. Regardless, it's still impressive of him to create a supreme inherited technique and comprehend the heart of beast god in only 180 million years. Sitting Mountain Guest looked down. In front of the cliff. The energy from the sculpture of the engraving picture was equivalent to that of the 3 ultimate techniques of universe masters. I did it, said Luo Feng. It's an ultimate technique of universe masters. Luo Feng stood in front of the cliff for a long time. He felt like he was in a dream. I did it, he repeated, after 180 million years. Luo Feng was confident that he could create ultimate techniques of universe overlords. As for ultimate techniques of universe masters, it would involve some luck. Luo Feng suddenly looked to the sky and transmitted his voice. Ancestor, he said. I challenge you. Ancestor, wearing in a white cape, quickly flew in from afar. He landed on the ground and smiled at Luo Feng. You going to challenge me? He said. Yes, answered Luo Feng. Luo Feng knew that even if he lost, he could keep doing research and trying. After all he needed to do was to defeat Ancestor within 100,000 eras. What weapon should I use? Luo Feng asked. Let's use our bare hands, shall we? Ancestor raised his left hand. This godly body of his had been transformed from other elements. Hands, said Luo Feng. He was taken aback. Hands as weapons? You've already comprehended the heart of beast god, said Ancestor. Don't you think your hands are weapons? Luo Feng was startled. Thousands of years' worth of memories flooded back. For beast gods traveling in the universe, their claws, tails, and horns all contained the beast god conception. Even the spiritual force weapons were the bodies of beast gods. At this moment, Luo Feng felt as though the enormous gap between close combat and spiritual force weapons had disappeared. The techniques he had created could be used both for close combat and as spiritual force weapons. Warrior path and spiritual force leader path. They are the same. Luo Feng was bewildered. You've comprehended the heart of beast god. Ancestor smiled. If you didn't, you had to focus on either the warrior path or the spiritual force leader path. After all, mixing them together is bad for comprehending the heart of beast god. Besides, beast gods are naturally better at using their godly bodies to fight, which is why those on the warrior path are better at comprehending the heart of beast god and finally become beast gods. Luo Feng nodded. Primal Chaos City leader had told him this before and insisted that he concentrate on the warrior path. However, for the past 180 million years, he had set aside the warrior path and spiritual force leader path, instead focusing on the engraving picture path. Without realizing it, he had fully comprehended the heart of beast god. Do you still need weapons? Ancestor asked. Luo Feng smiled. If beast gods can use their claws, then I can use my hands as well. Ancestor stood still. Attack, he commanded. Luo Feng looked from afar and used the Mosha body for the combat. After all, Ancestor would also use the godly body at the same level. Countless engravings started to flow on Luo Feng's godly body, and he dashed toward Ancestor like a beam of golden light. At this moment, Luo Feng felt the beast god in his body charging his competitor. The attack contained the beast god path and also contained ultimate techniques of universe masters. The attack was fierce and quick, faster than the Shawu wings. Break! Luo Feng arrived at where Ancestor stood. He grabbed Ancestor as his left hand became a claw, and the engravings on its fingers started to connect with each other. Ancestor waved his hand, and they clashed. Ancestor took a step back. Ha ha ha. Luo Feng felt overjoyed. The memories of the beast god merged with him at this moment. Charge! Claws! Legs! Luo Feng was absorbed in the golden light, and the roaring of beast gods resounded around him. Fast! Sharp! Ancestor was suppressed. Although he tried to resist it, Luo Feng was getting more and more skilled, as if he truly were a beast god. His fingers were sharp like claws. They pierced through Ancestor's chest. Ancestor looked down, smiled, and nodded. He took a step back, and his godly body recovered. You won, he said. Luo Feng, standing in the golden light, was dazed. Had he actually defeated Ancestor? Ancestor would only perform Universe Master level pinnacle techniques, and though he could only maintain his godly body at the same level as Luo Feng's, he was still Ancestor after all. It was a surreal feeling to have defeated Ancestor. Thank you, Ancestor, Luo Feng said respectfully. Ancestor had focused on defense from the beginning of the combat, which was why Luo Feng had been able to make better and better attacks, and thus fully understand the way beast gods fought. No need to thank me, said Ancestor, shaking his head and smiling. I performed the best defense pinnacle techniques of Universe Masters, but I still failed to defend against you. I might have won if I had attacked first, but you will still win over me after several challenges. There's no need to waste time. Luo Feng was full of gratitude. He had benefited so much in the past 180 million years in the Beast God sector. The Heart of Beast God was a pleasant surprise, and the engraving picture path was a brand new path for him. Plus, he had created an ultimate technique of the Universe Master level. Ha ha ha. A guffaw resounded around him, followed by a shadow. Sitting Mountain Guest looked at Luo Feng from afar. After 180 million years, this disciple of his had finally evolved. In the past, Luo Feng hadn't had much time to practice. He stood among the great beings because of the enormous godly body and force armor, but when it came to laws and techniques, he was significantly weaker. Yet his law comprehension and techniques had now reached an incredibly eminent level, even better than many universe overlords. I've accumulated enough, said Sitting Mountain Guest. I believe this disciple of mine will have an easy time becoming a universe overlord. Perhaps the only difficulty he's going to have is becoming a universe master. Sitting Mountain Guest was satisfied. Flame Emperor had disappointed him, which was why he had devoted all his resources and time to his third disciple. Fortunately, his third disciple hadn't upset him. The laughter attracted both Luo Feng and Ancestor. Master? Luo Feng was dazed by the shadow flying toward him. Sitting Mountain Guest, said Ancestor with a smile. Don't be smug. Your disciple is indeed impressive. However, don't forget that he has a golden horned beast body, and his soul has completely merged with the godly body. It's almost impossible to tell whether he's a human or a golden horned beast. Who will say no if I insist that he's a golden horned beast? That's between your alliance and the humans, Sitting Mountain Guest said as he landed. It has nothing to do with me. Whether this disciple of mine belongs to the human race or Space Beast Alliance doesn't concern me at all. Luo Feng stepped forward and said, Master. Okay. Sitting Mountain Guest smiled and nodded. He glanced at Ancestor. Don't forget our bet. This video will end here.